Facebook at Salam Radio.
Helps to put the mics on, doesn't it? Salam alaikum, good evening, and welcome to the Property Wise Property Show. I didn't forget to put the mics up there, honest. It was a technical fault. The fault was my fingers didn't push the button up.
It's always somebody else's fault, isn't it?
And for the first time in 3 weeks, I'm here with my co-host.
Shaz Nawaz, and a pleasure
Welcome
to be
back.
with you, Kieran, and
Welcome
obviously
back.
everybody who's listening in.
Yep, feel free to get in touch with us. You can call the studio on 01733 602 133, or you can text us on 07411 191 062. Or if you really want, you can get in touch with on the live streams via Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter. Look forward to hearing from you.
I think you should write songs, by the way, Kieran.
I don't think I'm qualified for that. And speaking of qualified, all the things that we talk about on this Property Wise show is not financial advice. It's advice from our own experiences, from our own understandings, from people we've spoken to, mentors, histories that we've had, and things like that. We're not financial advisors. We don't give financial advice. If you want financial advice, go and seek a professional. Something I've been told before: go and seek professional help. Not sure if it was referring to finances or not.
No comment, because it's my first week back after 2 weeks, so I'm going to be nice to you now for at least
For
the next 5 minutes.
For the next 5 minutes.
And of course, at the same time, we sometimes talk about interest and other financial instruments. And if people want to have an Islamic view on that, and we will get a speaker on that, or a host or guest, sorry. But until then, they should seek their own advice on Sharia law and Islamic law on finances. Absolutely.
And so this week, it's going to be a little bit different. We've got a break for us coming up in about 55 seconds. So to begin with, we're just going to go over what we're going to cover this week. And this week, I think, is going to be a bit about mindset, because we like our mindset sessions, and I think they serve us well and they do everyone well. And a little bit about dealing with problems and failures and solution finding, issues and things like that. Have you got any issues, Shaz?
It's a long list. How long do you have? An hour's not enough, but...
if an hour's not enough...
Well, you knew the answer to that. Why do you ask the question when you know the answer to that?
Because I might know the answer, Shaz, but our audience do not. So stay tuned, and we will be back with these answers and more shortly.
Yes.
Absolutely.
But before we do that, because we're just going towards the Maghrib Azan.
You're listening to Salam Radio, and it's now time for Maghrib Azan. This Azan is sponsored by Park Foods. Come and see the difference.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allah. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته. اللهم آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم بك نحيا وبك نموت وإليك المصير. رضينا بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا.
Visit our website, salamradio.co.uk.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. Hello, Shaz. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me back, Kieran. It's a pleasure.
More importantly, Shaz, welcome back to the country.
I'm delighted to be back. It was, I think, hitting 30 to 32 degrees. I landed at the airport, and guess what I saw? Rain.
You saw rain? Where did you see rain? Where have you been? Assume I've told them nothing.
I saw rain at Heathrow Airport like yesterday when I arrived, my friend. That's what I saw, rain.
Yeah,
After the best part of 2 weeks. I was in Islamabad in Pakistan.
And you had a good time out there?
Well, I was working.
Well, yeah, don't I know it?
So it was a working trip or a business trip. But Pakistan's always good. Yes, absolutely.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
Thank you.
Inshallah, one day I'll go out and join you out on a trip to Pakistan.
Very soon.
Very soon. Very soon.
And you'll be looking for property deals and property information. So you can come and share it on a subsequent property buy show.
Absolutely. And that's a good segue. I mean, what were properties like out there? What was the property market like in a different part of the world? Because, I mean, let's be honest, not everyone wants to invest in the UK. People might want to invest their money elsewhere.
So it depends on which part of the country you go to. So I'll just talk about Islamabad, and then next to that you've got a place called Rawalpindi, which people generally call Pindi, and then you've got two kind of big sites there called Bahria Town and another one called DHA, Defence Housing Authority, which is basically owned by the military. Yeah. So they build houses, and the majority of people in those two areas, especially Bahria Town, are from the UK. So the market slowed down there somewhat. So I was last there, as you know, in October, and it was reasonably busy. I wouldn't say it was booming, but it was busy. Now it's kind of slowed down with some of the challenges that are taking place both internationally with the cost of living crisis, inflation. It's not just in the UK, by the way. It is affecting lots of different countries, especially...
Of course, and we should be mindful of that when we discuss our issues with their issues.
Absolutely. So you got gas, electric costs, fuel, and inflation, which are affecting a lot of people. So people aren't spending or investing as they were when I was there back in October, which is similar to what's happening in the UK to some extent, in a different way though. But generally speaking, the property market's pretty buoyant. There's a lot of new buildings being built, and the market works slightly different in Pakistan to the UK, where a significant number of people will pay cash for a property.
Oh, to be in a position where I could pay cash for a property. Do you know what I would do if I could pay cash for a property?
Buy one.
No, I'd split it into 4 and get a mortgage on 4 different properties.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Why have one when you can have 4? Okay, fair enough. But there's a lot of commercial property, and interestingly, what they do is offer you different rates of return, and generally they'll offer you minimum 10%. So even if you're buying a commercial property and you want to rent it out, there's real estate agents, as they call them, and they say to you, will pretty much guarantee you a 10% return, which is good. And you can get that in the UK, which we talked about in the past on these shows. 10% is good. And it goes all the way. And the highest I saw was for an international hotel, I won't mention the name, where they give you a guaranteed 1.89% return. This is an interest, by the way. This is a return on your investment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so usually on the ground floor, they call it commercial, so they have shops, retail shops,
Yeah.
restaurants, that type of stuff. And then on the uppers from the first floor upwards, generally speaking, it'll either be offices or it'll be apartments. And if it's offices, then that, depending on how tall the building is, let's say it's a 20-floor or 20-story building, ground floor is commercial. Then the next, or for retail, the next 5 or 7 or 10 might be for offices, and the remaining 9 or 10 will be apartments and flats.
I mean, that could be a really useful commute to work.
Absolutely.
Go from the flat down to the office, go downstairs, get your shopping, go back up to the office.
Talk about convenience, yeah.
I mean that's perfect convenience.
It
isn't
works,
it?
doesn't it? And they're offering you a 1.89% return per month, and on top of that, they guarantee you a 3.5% capital appreciation. Or on the other side, they'll say you can have, I think it was 28.5% or something around that figure, capital appreciation per year. And they say, whenever you want to cash out, you tell us. This is all contractual, by the way. And we'll buy you out based on over how many years you've had the investment for, at a rate of, say, 28.5%. Now, if you had that option, Kieran, by the way, would you go for a 1.89% cash flow return every single month with a 3.5% capital appreciation, or a 28.5% capital appreciation only?
I think personally, I would go for cash flow over capital appreciation. I know that they're contractually obligated to give you the 28% capital appreciation, but if you bought something for, say, 100,000, and then in 2 years you cash it out, then you've got 128 plus 28% of 128, which works out at
A bigger number.
a bigger number. Yeah, but you're looking at, call it 30%. So that's another 33,000 on top of that 128. Call it another 30,000.
Call it 150 or whatever, yeah.
150, 160
yeah.
total. Okay, so 160 total. All right, that's good, but the same amount of time you've got cash flow coming in, and your cash flow might just cover the costs of gas, light, heating, anything that service costs that you need to pay towards the building, or repairs or maintenance, things like that.
Don't pay any of those.
Oh, do you not?
No.
Oh,
Even better, isn't it?
even better then.
Yeah.
Then I'm not so sure.
I'll go for the cash flow.
I mean, I still think cash flow, because cash flow is king
Cash is king, and then you can reinvest that cash and
in another building.
grow it, and you've got that 3.5% capital appreciation coming in as well. If you need the cash personally, you can use it. If not, you can reinvest it and compound that as well.
I think the 28% would be good if you were planning short-term investment. But for me personally, and I know for you, that when I choose to invest in a property, I'm not looking to invest in it for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I'm talking 10, 15, 20, my life.
Yeah. Mid to long term.
Yeah. So cash flow is more important than capital appreciation for me personally. And it doesn't realistically, it doesn't matter if I bought the house at 100 and it's now worth 300. It doesn't matter if I'm not selling it, because that money's stuck in there. It's not doing anything. Whereas additional cash flow, that's cash coming into me. Cash coming into me is more important because I can do something with that. I can invest it, I can reinvest it, I can save it, I can go on holiday, I can buy a car, I can whatever. I have options. So yeah, I think I stick with my first answer, cash flow.
Yeah, yeah. I would obviously do the same as and I was just looking at different properties, and everything's sold, especially commercial, by the square foot. Simple as that. Price per square foot. How much do you want square feet? Okay, there you go. Bang. This is the price. So I would see a property. So just as a frame of reference more than anything else for people listening in, people who might be familiar with the area who might go there. Our office, as you know, Kieran, is in the Islamabad Stock Exchange Tower, which is in the blue area, and behind that you've got quite a few different sectors, like F1, F2, F7, like that. And I went into one of those sectors, just look around at properties, because there's an agent that I know, so he took me to the property, and I said, that one there, how much is that for? He said, it's for rent, and it's 48 lakhs. Okay? I said, okay, 48 lakhs a year. He looked at me, said, 48 lakh rupees a month.
Now, as someone who's never been to Pakistan, is that good? Is that bad?
So put it this way, and I'm going to just keep the numbers round. It's not exact, okay? Because I don't track the exchange rate every single day. Let's just say the exchange rate's 300 rupees, and let's call it 50 lakh, okay? It would be £15,000 a month. So £180,000 a year rent.
Wow, that's a lot.
So just think about this. I'm not comparing to Knightsbridge per se, but think Knightsbridge or some of the areas around Knightsbridge. Okay.
I mean, you've really
That
got to go into central London to get that sort of rental.
Well, you can see the demand in that in the capital territory in Islamabad is huge, Kieran. Most of the buildings are occupied. Okay. And then I said, okay, how much is that to buy? £3 million.
Wow. That's some serious investment money going on there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the price quoted. If you obviously work back in terms of rental income at 180 grand, you can probably negotiate it down to 1.8 million, but they always start high and then you negotiate. But yeah, there's a lot of development going on there, and it's interesting to compare and contrast, as you know, we both like doing in terms of how the market works there.
I mean, I love a good spreadsheet, as you know.
Absolutely. So you can do the numbers. But you're right. If people are looking at alternative investments, they can look at other countries and see what's going on in terms of return. And every country works differently.
Yeah, and obviously, if you are going to go down that route, seek professional advice. Look at the pros and cons of investing offshore versus investing locally, because there are a lot of loopholes and there are a lot of caveats and clauses and things that you need to go through.
Well, generally speaking, Kieran, the people that I've spoken to who had their fingers burnt, because we're talking about setbacks, which we're going to come to very shortly, a significant number of them invested in other countries without understanding the rules, the laws, okay, the way property works, and they lost a lot of money. I'm not going to obviously name particular cities or countries because that wouldn't be right on air. But if you are going abroad, then you have to go into it with your eyes open, whichever country you're going into.
Yeah, and I mean, it's things like understanding like local microcosms, isn't it? You know, I mean, we'll take London for example, because I know London quite well. You know, I grew up there, and
Misguided youth in Covent Garden, was it?
It was a misguided youth in Covent Garden, and I still love that place. But London is, whilst London is part of the UK and it's part of England and all the rest of it, London's its own being, if you like.
Of course it is different, yeah, that's right.
You know, and whether you're East London, West London, sorry, I'll stop going Cockney. But do you know what I mean, Harry? If you are from London, then you've got, you know, there's a big divide whether you're north or south of the river, and you know, North England is anything north of the Watford Gap. You know, that sort of thing, and I think that's true in a lot of places. You need to understand those little microcosms and those little idiosyncrasies within each city in which you plan on investing in, to a degree. If you're you know, in England, investing in places in England, to a degree that's less important unless, you know, you have difficult things, individual things going on within those small communities. But getting to know those communities is a lot easier if you're, part and parcel of those communities. But if you're not, it's a much harder thing. It's like I once met a couple who they invest in China, and their parents are from China, but they don't classify themselves as Chinese. They classify themselves as Shanghaiese, because Shanghai is a different, like London, different beast all to itself. And they don't speak Chinese; they speak Shanghaiese, which I thought was really fascinating. And we got, many. This
Mandarin
was
or whatever.
well, I mean, but it's a sub dialect. It's like Cockney rhyming slang, but for Chinese. Which, if you've ever tried to learn Chinese, as I have, that's a whole
different ball game,
a whole wormhole.
Yeah. But I tell you what's interesting though is, again, based on conversations with people that I've had and seen the capital growth, the people who buy properties which are in high demand and sometimes end up overpaying for them are the properties, and this is an odd anomaly, so to speak, to some extent, Kieran, and you have to square this circle in a way, is the ones that they overpaid for, and they overpaid for because there's huge demand. When they've come to sell them or look at the capital appreciation, it's higher than all the other properties individually on a one-to-one basis, simply because that property is always in demand. For example, you buy a property in Knightsbridge, for example, because we're talking about London, okay, unless something changes radically, there'll always be huge demand and a higher capital value and higher capital value appreciation for those properties, which is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, and to a degree, as we're going to go on to setbacks and troubleshooting and things like that, to a degree, we'll take your Knightsbridge example, or you could take Mayfair as well. Properties in those areas, in general, are often not hit the same way as every other property in the country when it comes to a crash, because people like status and people like the name attached to it. And you've just got to look at fashion brands. Pick any high-end fashion brand that you like. Are they made better than a lower end brand that you could buy for less money?
But the simple thing is, for that, just to finish off the earlier point in terms of buying in Knightsbridge or elsewhere, is people always look back and say, I wish I bought that 10 years ago when it was 100 grand or whatever, even though I couldn't afford 100 grand. Now it's £1.5 million, I've done really well. So whenever you're buying it, it's going to be expensive. But in the long term, because this is a good a conversation I had a good number of times with people in Pakistan who bought properties which had a huge amount of capital appreciation, but they told me when they bought the properties years ago, they couldn't quite afford them, but they made it work, and they got there. The other point that you make about Mayfair or Knightsbridge, again linked with the status of one, people want to use some other word, is when there's a credit crunch, so to speak, or a cost of living crisis or some other financial challenge, the super wealthy are the least hit.
Exactly the point I was making.
Even though on paper they might be, but generally speaking, they can still afford to buy those designer brands. They can still afford to live in Knightsbridge or Mayfair. Yet the value of their portfolio, if they've got property, might reduce overall. Okay, that's on paper though, because they're not selling those properties.
But the value is still there.
But they've got the cash coming in, or the income coming in, to still live their life. They might have to make some compromises, but they carry on as they are. Whereas the majority of people, where there is a financial challenge or a cost of living crisis or a credit crunch or whatever it may be at that time, or some kind of a recession, have to make more compromises.
Yeah, and if you've got a property that, for example, you bought for 100,000 and it's now worth, £1 million, but that percentile increase has happened over the last 15 years rather than a lot of other places. And, it does happen, I'm just using this as an extreme figure. This isn't, I've never seen this happen, but as an extreme figure. Whereas everywhere else in the country, it's gone from houses have gone from 100,000 to 200,000 because they're falling into the property cycle of doubling every 7 to 10 years, 15 years, something like that. If you've then got that property that's outperformed everything else, and then we hit a crash, a slump, the prices go down and all the rest of it, and it becomes a little bit more shaky, and they lose 5% of value, 10% of value, 15% of value. That 15% that you've lost is a bigger number in terms of actual physical number, but your overall profit, if you had to sell at that stage, is still leagues above
The hard number, yeah.
what you would have, if it had only doubled in value. If it doubles in value and then drops by 20%, you've still made a little bit of money, but you've not made nearly as much as if it's 10x in value and then dropped 20%. I think it's important to look at that sort of thing when you're looking at where to invest, see what place is doing, because not everything is static. The UK property market is not one homogenous, this happens at this point for this reason.
And nothing is linear, and obviously it doesn't work or go in a vacuum.
Exactly that. But more on that after this break.
Stay tuned to Salam Radio after this short ad break.
Bite into something wonderfully tasty at Big Mouth, 349 Lincoln Road in Peterborough. Eating in, for takeaway or delivery, Big Mouth now have a delicious new menu full of all your favourites. Crispy fried chicken, juicy smashed burgers, finger-licking peri-peri chicken, handmade pizzas, quality doner meat and so much more. So visit the family-friendly Big Mouth restaurant for fantastically fresh food. Call 01733 201020 or visit getbigmouthonline.com.
Do you own a restaurant or takeaway? Cater Fair is an expert supplier of new and used commercial catering equipment. Visit caterfair.co.uk for quality equipment on sale at the lowest prices, or call us on 01733 310 115 or visit us at 11 Royce Road, Fengate, Peterborough.
And this is a race against time. We urgently need you now to donate your zakat and sadaqah and to save lives across the world.
When you have clothes, you can cover up. When you have food, you don't go hungry. When you have ways to keep warm, you don't feel the cold so much. Don't forget to help them survive through winter.
So that's why we urgently need you to come forward now and donate your zakat and sadaqah at muslimhands.org.uk.
Keep them warm, keep them alive.
हाँ जी जनाब आज तुसने किया 12 बजे वे
जराब फैमिली की बाहर खड़ना चाहना या खिलाने पिलाने से सोचना कुथे जाओ
इस च परेशानी लिखड़ी गल है इब्राहिमी बफे रेस्टोरेंट पर जाओ उते फ्री पार्क करो उन्होंने मजेदार ते स्वादले पाकिस्तानी इंडियन चाइनीज ते इटालियन आय 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 खाने ना ते जोड़ी कोई नहीं नाले सस्ते ते स्वादले
ए थे रक्स इसका मतलब है बटवा भी नहीं होला होनेगा इब्राहिमी बफे रेस्टोरेंट वैरायटी ऑफ डिलीशियस डिशेस के अलावा जेलाटो आइसक्रीम एंड वॉफल्स भी करते हैं वीकेंड्स पर अपना टेबल बुक करवाइए और वीकडेज तशरीफ ले आइए ओपनिंग आवर्स शाम 5 बजे से रात 10:30 बजे तक इब्राहिमी रेस्टोरेंट 63 Sycamore Avenue Peterborough PE1 4JP टेलीफोन 01733 313131
Thinking of laser hair removal but worried about cost? Well Skin Clinic, Peterborough's #1 aesthetic clinic, offers 0% finance on courses of laser hair removal. We perform thousands of treatments using the Soprano titanium in our prestigious clinic. Virtually pain-free and suitable for all skin types, our team of aesthetic professionals can help you achieve your goals affordably. Well Skin Clinic, making life-changing aesthetic treatments affordable for all. 40 Cowgate, Peterborough. Call or WhatsApp us on 01733 555540.
Peterborough. Who said good quality fried and grilled chicken has to be expensive? At Sam's, we take pride in every piece of chicken that leaves our kitchen. Just one bite of our chicken or burgers is all it takes to realise we are the best. Visit us at our brand new place at 333 Lincoln Road, PE1 2PF. Or order a delivery through Just Eat, Uber or Deliveroo. Sam's, the home of great tasting chicken for over 30 years.
Peterborough's community radio station, Salam Radio.
Assalamu alaikum, good evening, and welcome back to the Property Wise Property Show. I'm your host, Kieran Bateman, And back in the hot seat with me,
Shaz Nawaz, and pleased to be back, Kieran.
That's good to have you back. I have missed you, my friend.
I thought I'd never hear those words.
No, you knew I missed you. If you want to get in touch, ask me or Shaz a question, feel free to call the studio. We are here. We are live. You can get in touch on 01733 602 133. You can text us on 07411 191 062. Or you can comment on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. I agree. It is good to have Shaz back. Thank you, Faisal. He's happy to have you back too. He was bored of listening to me on my own, clearly.
I'm sure that's not true, by the way.
Well, it might not have been. I had a lot of fun while you weren't here, I'll be honest. We were talking about rental yields. We were talking about property strategies. There was a lot going on.
And I was so paranoid. I thought, well, Betty's talking about me.
I mean, I did spend a solid 30 seconds.
59 minutes. Not talking about me, yeah.
Yeah, I spent a solid 30 seconds moaning that you weren't here and you'd abandoned me. You've left me all by myself. I was lonely. But I had the good listeners coming in, speaking to me, keeping me company.
Aren't they nice? And that's why we're here. We're here for them.
And exactly that. So, we spoke a little bit before the break about your trip to Pakistan and about, properties in Pakistan.
Comparing, contrasting to some extent.
Comparing,
we can do
contrasting to
a whole show on that, but
and we absolutely could.
We made a point.
But we also spend a lot of time on the show talking about mindset, because you and I both firmly believe that mindset is super important when it comes to whatever you do in life, whether it be investing, whether it be business, whether it be just doing exams, getting through school, whatever. Mindset matters, and mindset matters more than a lot of people give it credit for. And one of the big things about mindset is dealing with problems, issues, rejections, failures, things like that. And when a problem strikes, how do you deal with it?
Depends what the problem is.
Doesn't it just?
I think it's through experience you get to learn well, I have anyway. So you've asked me a question, I'll talk about how I deal with it as opposed to how others may, and then hopefully they'll learn from that. So if you asked me that question 20 years ago, it would have been more in the moment, okay? And
very hot-headed.
Possibly emotional, shooting from the hip, not reflecting, not thinking about things. And as you grow and develop, you get to learn that let's frame this first in terms of what the person's trying to say, why they're saying it, and does it matter? And it's that old, I guess, the old saying that has helped me a lot, okay? Those who matter don't mind, and those who mind don't matter. So
see, I always preferred it's all about mind over matter. I don't mind and you don't matter.
That works for you, fine. But let's talk about Facebook, for example, okay? Or any social media platform, because we shouldn't single out one, by the way.
Yeah.
But it's one of the bigger ones. But
Facebook, Twitter, Twitch,
any social media platform. And let's say you're in a position of authority as an expert, or a public figure, or somebody who's sharing information. Then what happens, Kieran, is people are going to challenge you. Some people might call them critics. Some people might see them as trolls, especially if you can't see their identity. And people take it very personally. And that's up to the individual. And I've like to think I've grown over the years, and I've stopped taking that stuff personally, simply because the way that I've seen it is they're not attacking me per se as an individual, because most of them don't know me. What they're attacking is either the comment or challenging the comment that I've made, or they are, maybe some of them are challenging my position or credibility. Okay?
Absolutely.
So it's not me per se, the person, it's me in terms of who I am, in terms of the representation I'm making on a platform.
The online personality.
And that helped me a lot, by the way, in terms of this is a gift. What can I learn from it? Because it's all about learning. And when people are challenging your ideas, I don't think that's being critical, or they're helping you grow, because you're there to help them grow. So you think, okay, how, and I mean, it depends what they say and how they go about it, but let's just generalize it. Every opportunity is an opportunity to either get people on side, or it's an opportunity for you to grow and develop, or to see a different perspective. And you've heard me say this before, as maybe some other people have, is if you have a beach ball, okay, it has you're seeing red and I'm seeing yellow, for example, and somebody else might be standing to the right of us and they're seeing blue, and you live all your life thinking the beach ball is red, or seeing your perspective. I live my life thinking the beach ball is yellow and somebody else thinks it's blue, and until we see a different perspective and say, well, hold a minute, there is a different perspective, and it's important to see other perspectives. So in terms of how do I deal with setbacks and challenges, is I first of all spend time reviewing. And one thing I've learned, and I'm not the best at this, by the way, is you got to take the heat out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just leave it, sleep on it, see how you feel about it tomorrow, and think of what really helped me, Kieron, was how important is this to me? Is this going to change my life? In a week's time, is this going to be important? In a month's time, is it going to be important? In 6 months' time, am I really going to care about this? In a year's time, what's this going to matter to me?
Are you even going to remember it?
Exactly. And if the answer is nothing, then I'd say just let it go.
Absolutely. I mean, we've got some comments here. Master Shabazz Aslam, some people just looking for an excuse to attack you. And they do that on, Facebook and, other social platforms, like you say. They absolutely do. And, some people are just looking for an argument. How do you deal with those sorts of individuals?
Well, the first thing is, what people say says more about them than it does about you. And I'm
absolutely, I do truly believe that.
And I'm a big believer in that we see in others what we truly see in ourselves. So, and the situation is different, Kieron, because having had, as you know, we do a lot on social media in terms of sharing information, and sometimes, as you've seen, people will share a different perspective, and then if you communicate with them offline, sometimes you see people are going through a difficult time. Somebody may be suffering mental health. I'm not saying some of the incidents that have happened. Sometimes somebody's had a parent pass away, or somebody else pass away, or there's something else that's happened in their life which is quite tragic or difficult. So at that moment, they're grieving, or they don't know how to deal with it.
And they're lashing out.
And they just go on to your post at that time, okay, and say things that perhaps they don't mean, or they're not thinking clearly. So who are we to judge that situation at that point? And I think people take it too personally. Or somebody challenged me or said something. Okay, I'm now
on the back. And I
lesser in some way. No, you're not.
And I do think that is a very important point that you just made. There is that people are very quick to judge. Someone said something that I don't agree with. I'm now going to judge that back, and it becomes quite toxic very quickly. Whereas if you can take a holistic view, a controlled approach, like you say, and rather than getting angry at it straight away, look at it and go, okay, well, that's your opinion. You're entitled to say what you want. Fine. I'm going to step back and go, I don't agree with that, but let's see if we can resolve the situation and take a more measured approach.
Yeah.
You're not only are you taking the heat out of the attack, as you say, or taking the fire away from them, you're taking away the fuel. You
have to be the bigger person and be more dignified about it. And Shabazz Aslam, by the way, Master Shabazz Aslam, who's a lovely guy, is absolutely right, by the way. Sometimes people, they want to attack you. They're looking for a fight. So you've got to be smart about it, Shabazz, and say, this person's looking for a fight. I don't really want to fight because I'm here just to share information, knowledge, or whatever the reason for a post may be. So you can either not give it any oxygen, ignore them. That's up to you to decide. Just because somebody's commented on your social media post doesn't mean you have to respond, by the way.
No, absolutely not.
I think it's nice, kind, polite, sensible, courteous to do so. But if it's going to see the worst of you, or people are going to see the worst of you, then maybe it doesn't require a response. But if you want to respond, then leave it for a day or two and then respond in a dignified way. Just because somebody's commented, it doesn't mean you have to respond within 30 seconds. And it doesn't make you any lesser, because usually, as you've seen, I'm sure you have, and as Shabazz and others, when somebody's being attacked, other people will usually come in okay? And if they know you personally, will say some nice things about you and maybe challenge them. And then the way that you respond, if you do it in a dignified way, people will appreciate that and say, you could have handled this in a much worse way, but you've done it in a really good, cool way, and that gains you more respect.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also, it's a good teachable moment, and you can teach, teach through doing. Look at how I responded to that situation. That didn't escalate. That diffused it. This is a process that I personally take to approach things. And I mean, Faisal, absolutely, you can't please everyone. No matter how much good you do, there will always be someone with a different perspective. Absolutely right. And that's kind of what I enjoy about the world. I'll be honest. I personally do, in the right situations, enjoy a good debate. I enjoy a difference of opinion, as long as it's constructive and done properly. But in terms of people going after you on the social platforms and things like that, I do always find that it's a lot easier to sit back and go, okay, that's great, but I'm going to continue doing what I do because I believe one way, and unless you can demonstrate to me that I'm wrong, okay, cool. You're entitled to your own opinion. But I also think that, and this is something that I do feel very strongly about, that people are entitled to say what they want and do what they want to a certain degree. And some people have that sole, I can say what I want idea in their head, so they do say what they want. But they forget the second half of that. And that is, you can say what you want and do what you want, but you have to accept the consequences of saying and doing that. You can't just go around being this enigmatic troll that's just jumping on people's fake profiles and saying horrible things and then jumping off just because you're angry and you want to have a dig at someone and, haha, look at me, aren't I clever? I got one up on them. There are consequences. And I think people need to, and I think this is true offline as well as online. If you do something, whether good or bad, because this is the other thing, consequences are not always bad. The consequence of working hard, following the rules, following the steps, following those who have succeeded before you is success. That is a consequence of following those processes. It's a direct consequence. And the same goes the other way, is that there are consequences to negative actions. You break the law, you go to jail.
And then on top of that, you then have the law of unintended consequences. So you may have thought about some of the consequences and said, okay, fine.
I'm okay with those.
There's other consequences that you haven't thought about. And then everybody who's listening right now or who may listen later will have had some kind of an incident in their lives at that time. It was the worst thing that could have happened, or they're really upset about it. And when they look back, okay, I mean, this won't apply to certain things, by the way. If you have a loved one passes away or something like that, that's different. But let's just talk about property, okay? They've had a property deal that's gone wrong, okay, badly wrong, and they've lost money. And then 5 years' time, they look back and said, that was one of the best things that happened to me. Because from that, I learned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different things. And because of the eight different things, I achieved A, B, and C.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'd love to get your thoughts at home about this. Call in, let us know. 01733 602 133. Text us on 07411 191 062. Or, as people have already been doing, comment on the live streams on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. We are live on all those social platforms.
Absolutely. And then in terms of Faisal's right, you can't please everybody, especially all the time. So there's no point even trying to do that. Have your own position in terms of what you believe. But people generally talk about failures, and how I see it, Kieron, is there's no such thing as failure. It's just life lessons. You don't fail, you just keep trying until you succeed, or whatever success may mean to you.
There was a conversation we had earlier today where you mentioned something about failures. Do you remember what it was?
No, I don't.
If you want to succeed, double your failure rate.
That was Tom Bottom, the founder of IBM, that's right.
Absolutely. And it's true. Like you say, I mean, when you say it like that, you're talking about failures and doubling your failure rate before you succeed. And when you look deeper into that, that's not necessarily just arbitrarily failing, is it? It's learning from your failures and rising from the ashes like a phoenix and going on to do bigger, better, brighter things and happier things, and looking back 5, 10, 15, 20 years later going, I learned a lot from that period. Yes, I failed a lot, but I learned a lot too. An interesting statistic that I know because I heard it somewhere. It was on TV. It was an interview with Michael Jordan, and he missed more hoops than anyone else in the entirety of the NBA.
That's right.
He missed more. But he was able to miss more because he took more. And that's why he is now, widely renowned as one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time.
But it's the thing, isn't it? You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
Yep. Absolutely.
Simple as that. So you've got to take risks and you've got to do things and you're going to have setbacks. But I mean, I'm a huge believer personally that God guides me, okay, and has a path for me, and that path is full of challenges like it is for everybody else. We just have different challenges in different ways, and it depends on perspective, whether you're seeing red or yellow or blue or some other colour, and you just got to think, okay, this is a gift right now, and it may not seem like a gift, but what can I learn from this, and how is this going to help me improve, or how am I going to navigate around this, because those lessons then, okay, will serve you better in the future.
Yeah, and absolutely. Most of the time, people only talk about their successes. Very few people share details of their failures. But failure's not the world-ending.
It's not permanent.
Thing. It's not permanent. No, it's only permanent if you let it be permanent. It's one of my other favourite phrases is, if you're going through hell, keep going. Don't stop in hell. Keep going. You'll get to somewhere good. But a lot of people get to the hard bit and stop, and then they struggle. And I'm all for reaching out and helping people and helping mentor, learning, training, supporting. And sometimes it's very difficult for people to ask for help. When they're struggling, it's difficult.
Of course it is.
So I think we as human beings need to be more aware of, if we've got a good mindset, we know where we're going. We like to think that between us, you and I are quite robust in terms of how our minds work and how our mindset is and how we deal with problems. And
I'm fragile. Issues. Speak for yourself, Kieran.
Fragile little. I mean, if you've ever met Shaz, I mean, turn him sideways, he'll blow away in the wind.
Well, of course, yeah. Or fall down a crack. Yeah. And I can also dodge rain. By the way, you can't do that.
No.
I know you're jealous, but it's all right.
Do you know what?
You can't be good at everything, Kieran. You can't be.
Cannot be good at everything. My name's not Shaz Nawaz. Can't be good at everything.
We'll have to buy a pink suit to go with those pink headphones. Then
absolutely.
You'll be sorted.
I would love
That's
a pink suit.
going to be your new brand.
Yeah, pink is my favourite colour.
Yeah. We're going to paint your house pink as well. Your next investment.
My next investment pink. Perfect. I love it. But yeah, in terms of recognising when other people are struggling, and because it happens to us all. We all have peaks and troughs and trials and tribulations and ups and downs, and I think a large portion of my mindset certainly is recognizing when someone's struggling and maybe not being so critical, maybe not, because criticism is good. For me, I like criticism. I thrive on it. It allows me to grow. It allows me to know what I'm doing wrong. But for some people, if they are in that downward path at that point, criticism's not going to help them.
No,
it's only going to send them further down.
Absolutely.
And being able to recognize that and go and shift the gear and go, okay, this is what you're doing well, and build them up so that they can then take on the criticism of, yes, this is what you're doing well, but and as we both know, anything before the but doesn't count.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that I think is important when we talk about mindset, is not just your own mindset, but recognizing other people's mindsets in terms of, I might have a complete belief and understanding about what I do, how I do it, what I do works. And I know it works because I followed a process, followed a success, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I've done some learning personal and all the rest of that fun stuff. But not everyone thinks that way. And for some people, you start talking about mindset and they switch off. Instantly switch off.
Yeah, people get upset if someone talks about them. And I think the simple thing really is, what other people think about us is none of our business.
Absolutely not.
Don't make your business. Focus your energy on the important stuff that you've decided is going to help you achieve whatever you want to achieve. in any part of your life. As you know, there's the wheel of life. We keep it from 6 to 10 to 12 different components.
Really good book as well.
It is a good book. And focus on any one of those. Why? Because we all got a limited amount of time every single day, which is 24 hours. Use them to better yourself, to improve yourself, to further yourself, to help others, to do whatever brings you joy.
I mean, I know right now you wish you had 48 hours in a day.
I do, don't I? Yeah. I just, yeah.
just yes. No. Notice how that
that's for next
how
week.
that just became.
That's next week's episode. Yeah, just before Ramadan starts.
Yep, and we will be shifting a working practice there, won't we?
You will.
I will. Yeah, that's going to be.
Well, that's
fun.
mindset as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think that's important. You might want to share some of that.
Yeah, I mean, we've got some team members over in Pakistan, and they're going to be, recognizing and practicing Ramadan, and as a result, their hourly work schedule is going to change in line with Ramadan, and we've agreed that if they're going to be working those hours, at the moment they work my hours, they work the hours that I work,
UK hours, yeah.
Which works for them for the most part. But for this period of time, for Ramadan, I'm going to be working their hours because I want them to be happier individuals. I want them to be more productive, and I don't want to put stress on their work life balance, work religion balance, because it's a big part of their life and it's very important, and I respect that. And so as a result, I'm going to be getting up at, what did we work it out as?
4 in the morning?
Yeah, getting into work for 4 in the morning.
For a whole month. I think it's important that because it shows that you care, you're supportive, you're working with them, and I know they're going to appreciate it. And I guess my challenge, Kieran, during that month is to encourage you to keep a few fasts. Yeah. How's that?
Yeah, absolutely. I have no issue with that.
I say keep, I mean observe, by the way. But
yeah. Faiz Rasool, we've got a comment on Facebook. I have no money to invest in real estate. I can opt for hard money lending as a viable funding option instead of coming from the bank. The funds used in the investment will come from groups or private individuals. What do you think? I think that Shaz and I are not financial advisors, and if you want to make any real financial decision, then with respect, you should go and seek help from a financial advisor who understands Sharia law and how to invest in accordance with Islam.
But Fiaz is a lovely man, by the way, Kieran, and I'll make sure you meet him one day, because you like to have a different perspective, and he always comes up with some really intelligent, I see quite a few intelligent observations. And I guess my response to Fiaz would be, in the UK we've got FCA rules in terms of investors. Are they sophisticated, are they not sophisticated? So you've got to square that circle first. But if you've got a consortium and you don't breach the FCA rules, or you get into the regulated world and you meet the criteria, then I think having a consortium, if Fiaz is trying to say how to avoid interest, fantastic. You've got 4 or 5 people who you ought to know well, and have, as you know, have a proper agreement in place, and have clear roles and responsibilities, rights and obligations, so there's no falling out later on. And Islam, it teaches us that all the time: put things in writing and then be very clear. And then that if you can come up with a good, strong consortium, it's a wonderful way to go forward. But you got to make sure that you do the heavy lifting up front.
Yep, that's a fair and valid
Which is the
answer.
concept you and I talk about. I think we have covered that in our initial introduction a few weeks ago. We talked about no money down.
Absolutely,
it's exactly that, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It is no money down.
And the way that you and I do it, by the way, as you know, or talk about it, is we cut out the interest bit.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Which is in line with Islamic teachings, where basically both of you share the risk and both of you share the profit.
Reward.
You're not paying anybody a coupon rate. I mean, there are people who will do that, okay? But the way you and I do it, as you know, you say, we'll give you, okay, whatever percentage share of the profits. It works.
Yeah. And that's fair. And I think it's something that we both agree on is, if someone's willing to invest in that way and you're there saying, well, I want a bigger share, I don't want a bigger share, or, I should have a bigger share because of X, Y, Z reason. Ultimately, if you're not prepared or you don't have the skills or the finance, whichever way around you're doing it, to go into this deal, but somebody's willing to do it, but they want a slightly bigger cut. Well, frankly, 100% of nothing is still nothing. But 25%, 30%, 40% of a £200,000 deal is still more than nothing.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something to keep in mind.
Doesn't time fly when you're having fun?
Doesn't time fly when you're having... I did not realise we were this close to the end of the show. Well, I've enjoyed this week.